There are moments in life when words become unnecessary, and yet they carry the loudest message. There is power in silence, a power many underestimate until they feel its weight. When you choose not to speak, when you decide to withdraw your voice and give no reaction, it is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It is a mirror placed before someone's soul, forcing them to see themselves without the comfort of your reassurance. Your silence is not emptiness. It is a language, a discipline, and a force that shakes the ground beneath those who once thought your voice would always be theirs to hear. He does not expect it. He expects your explanation, your tears, your questions. He expects your voice to fill the air with reasons and emotions. But when he is met with silence, it unsettles him. It makes him wonder. It makes him reflect. It makes him see that something has shifted. Your silence hurts him because it removes control. It removes certainty. It is no longer you chasing answers. It is now him questioning himself. This is the power you hold when you choose restraint over reaction. Understand this. Silence is not about punishment. It is about presence. It says without words that you have risen above the need to prove yourself. It says that you value your peace more than his comfort. And when he feels that, when he realizes that your energy is no longer freely given, it unsettles his spirit. Your absence of words becomes heavier than any argument you could ever make. He may try to provoke. He may try to call you back into the game of voices and emotions. But stay still. Stay grounded. A calm river reflects the sky more clearly than a storm. When you remain silent, you allow the noise to echo in his mind. You make space for his own thoughts to confront him. And in that space, he will feel the truth. Your silence is his reminder that he is no longer the center of your world. There is strength in restraint. There is wisdom in not reacting. Those who master their words know when to speak and when to remain quiet. And when quietness is chosen, it is not a lack of response, but a complete statement of self-worth. Do not underestimate what your silence can teach him. It teaches that you are no longer accessible, that your emotions are sacred, and that your energy is not to be wasted on those who take it for granted. There are times when words are unnecessary, when they would only dilute the truth you carry within. Silence is often mistaken for emptiness, but in reality, it is the purest form of expression. When you hold back your voice, when you choose to say nothing, it does not mean you have nothing to say. It means that what you feel is too strong to be reduced to mere sentences. This is where your power lies, in allowing silence to become the vessel of your truth. He expects your voice to be present because it reassures him that you are still there, still invested, still willing to explain. But when you remove your words, you remove his comfort. Suddenly, he cannot read you. He cannot predict you. And that uncertainty shakes him more than any outburst ever could. Silence carries weight because it is not what people are used to. We live in a world where noise is everywhere. People argue to prove their point. They shout to be heard. They explain to be understood. But silence goes beyond the need for validation. It is a quiet reminder that not every action deserves a reaction. Not every question deserves an answer. And not every wound needs to be displayed. When you choose silence, you choose to protect your energy. You choose to let him wonder instead of giving him clarity. And in that wondering, he begins to feel the truth that is louder than your words. Something is different, something is missing, and it is not easily fixed. What makes silence so powerful is that it forces the other person to face themselves. Without your words to guide, defend, or explain, he is left with his own mind. That is where the real battle begins. He is now thinking about what went wrong, what was said, what was done. He tries to fill in the blanks that your silence has created. And the more he tries, the more he realizes that the answers are his to find. Your silence reflects his actions back to him like a mirror. It shows him the spaces where he failed to listen, the moments he did not value you, the times he took your voice for granted. This is why silence hurts more than any loud confrontation. Arguments give him the chance to respond, to defend, to dismiss. Silence gives him nothing. It closes the door to excuses and makes him sit with his choices. It leaves him unsettled because he has no control over what you are thinking, no idea what you might do next. And that uncertainty is more haunting than any angry words. The mind always seeks resolution, and when it cannot find it, it creates its own stories. Those stories often hurt far more than reality. Choosing silence does not mean you are avoiding. It means you are elevating. It means you value your peace over unnecessary explanations. It means you have learned that your voice does not always need to fight to be heard. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is to step back and let the absence of sound do the talking. The most disciplined people are those who know when to act and when to be still. Your stillness becomes an unspoken boundary. It says without saying that you will not give energy to what does not deserve it. The beauty of silence is that it is unforgettable. Long after an argument fades, long after words are forgotten, the memory of silence stays. He will remember the day you stopped speaking. He will remember the shift in your energy. And that memory will carry weight because silence is final. It is intentional. And it cannot be undone by apologies or explanations alone. It forces him to realize that not everything can be fixed with words. So never underestimate your quiet moments. They are not weakness, they are not surrender. They are your truth spoken in the most profound way. They tell him more than any sentence ever could. And when he feels that silence, he will understand that he is no longer in the same place of comfort. That he has lost something valuable, that your truth has been spoken without a single sound. When you stop speaking, when you withdraw your words and choose stillness, something begins to happen in his mind that he cannot ignore. Quietness creates a vacuum, and the human mind cannot stand a vacuum. He is used to hearing your voice, your thoughts, your laughter, your reactions. That sound has always given him clues about where you stand, what you feel, and how connected you are to him. When that sound suddenly disappears, when the familiar rhythm of your voice is gone, it becomes unsettling. He is left alone with his own thoughts, and those thoughts are rarely kind. Silence forces him to confront what he might have done wrong. It forces him to face the things he once brushed aside. Without your voice to guide or soften the truth, he has to sit with himself, and that is where discomfort grows. Quietness is not passive. It is active in ways words can never be. It presses him to think, to question, to analyze. He begins to replay moments in his mind, going back to conversations, to actions, to choices he made. He wonders why you are quiet, what triggered it, what it means. And the more he wonders, the more restless he becomes. Your absence of reaction is now louder than anything you could say. It is no longer about you explaining what happened. It is about him realizing something has shifted, and that shift is now controlling his thoughts. This is why your quietness is powerful. It places the focus on him instead of on you. People are rarely prepared for silence. We live in a world full of noise. When someone stops contributing to that noise, the stillness feels uncomfortable, even threatening. When you remain quiet, you remove the distractions. He cannot escape into arguments or dismissive answers. He cannot rely on your responses to ease his discomfort. Instead, he has to sit with the weight of his own actions. This is where accountability begins. Your silence is not punishment, it is reflection. It gives him space to see himself clearly, without the cushion of your explanations or justifications. And this reflection is not gentle. The mind exaggerates what it does not understand. The less you say, the more he imagines. Every unanswered question becomes a mirror, showing him pieces of himself he may not like. He begins to feel the gaps that your silence has created. He feels the distance growing and wonders what he missed, what he could have done differently. It is not the lack of words that hurts. It is the realization that you are no longer offering your energy freely. That energy, once taken for granted, now becomes precious because it is absent. Quietness is also discipline. It shows that you do not need to defend yourself or beg to be understood. It shows that you know the power of restraint, and that restraint is magnetic. It makes him want to chase what is no longer easily accessible. He may try to provoke, to get a reaction, to draw out even a single word. But every moment you stay grounded and calm, the tension grows inside him. The quiet is no longer just silence. It becomes a presence, something heavy and undeniable. The most powerful thing about your quietness is that it demands his attention without asking for it. It unsettles him because it leaves no room for control. Words can be argued with, but silence cannot. It is firm, it is unshakable, and it leaves him questioning his own behavior. And that questioning is where growth or regret begins. Remember this: when you choose quietness, you are not just withholding words, you are redirecting energy. You are shifting the balance of power without raising your voice. Your silence forces him to do what most avoid: to think deeply, to self-reflect, to face the weight of his own actions. And in that stillness, he will feel more than you could ever say. Strength does not always come from loudness, from sharp words, or from proving a point. Often it is found in the quietest moments, in the ability to hold back, to restrain, and to simply let the stillness speak for you. When you remain silent, it is not because you are defeated or because you lack words. It is because you have chosen a higher ground, one that refuses to waste energy where it is not valued. This is what he does not expect, and that is why it hurts him more than you know. He may mistake silence for weakness at first, but as the quiet stretches longer, as he realizes you are not giving in, it unsettles him. Your silence is not submission. It is strength disguised as calmness. Strength in silence shows that you are not driven by the need for constant validation. It tells him that your emotions are not for display, and that your peace matters more than any argument. He may have believed that you would always explain, defend, or plead to be understood. But when you choose stillness instead, when you hold your ground without a single word, you prove that your worth is not tied to his acknowledgement. And this realization carries weight. It creates a shift because it shows him that you are not dependent on his reaction, that your happiness and self-respect are not in his control. The truth is, speaking is easy. Anyone can argue, justify, or react, but silence requires discipline. It requires courage to trust that you do not need to fight every battle, that not every wrong deserves a response. That is strength, being able to let go without losing yourself, to stand tall without raising your voice. And that strength is deeply felt by anyone who experiences it. When he sees that your calmness cannot be shaken, when he notices that your silence is unbothered, it makes him wonder. He starts questioning his own behavior, his own value in your life. Because strength in silence means you have already decided what matters to you, and it might no longer include him. What makes this strength powerful is that it is quiet but undeniable. It creates distance without words, boundaries without explanation. Silence is not a void. It is a wall built out of self-respect. It tells him that your love for yourself is greater than your desire to be understood. And the more you stand by that silence, the more he feels it. Because unlike anger or arguments, silence cannot be reasoned away. It cannot be dismissed as mere emotion. It is intentional, it is steady, and it leaves him to face the truth alone. He may try to provoke you, to pull you back into the noise, to test whether your silence can be broken. But the longer you hold it, the clearer the message becomes. You are not running, you are not hiding, you are simply choosing yourself. And that choice is powerful. It makes him see that the control he thought he had was an illusion. It makes him realize that your peace cannot be disrupted because you have learned the art of letting go without explanation. The beauty of this strength is that it is unspoken but unforgettable. He will remember the moment you chose calmness over chaos, when you decided that silence was worth more than wasted words. He will feel the shift in your energy and understand that something precious has been lost. Silence does not weaken you, it elevates you. It shows that your emotions are not to be handled carelessly, that your love and attention are privileges, not guarantees. So let your silence stand as proof of your strength. Let it remind him that you are not bound to his reactions. And when you choose not to speak, when you carry yourself with quiet dignity, he will understand that you are stronger than he ever imagined. And that is why your silence hurts him more than you know. There is something rare about the kind of stillness that holds more meaning than 1,000 words. When you choose to stay quiet, when you deliberately decide not to explain, argue, or defend yourself, something unexpected happens. The absence of your reaction does not create emptiness. It creates a space. And that space becomes heavier than any statement you could make. It is in that silence that the other person begins to feel what they did not feel before. He starts to sense the distance, the weight of your absence, the loss of your presence. It is no longer about what you say, it is about what you no longer offer. And that void unsettles him because humans are not comfortable with unanswered questions. When you stay silent, you remove the comfort of predictability. He was used to your reactions. He knew how to respond to your laughter, your anger, your explanations. He could anticipate your next move because your words gave him a map. But silence is unpredictable. It leaves him without a direction. It makes him wonder what you are thinking, what you are feeling, and whether there is still a place for him in your mind. That uncertainty builds and builds until it becomes louder than any sound. This is why absence of reaction becomes such a strong force. It creates reflection. It forces him to analyze moments that once passed unnoticed. Silence is not passive, it is a mirror. It shows him what he has ignored. It allows him to hear the echoes of his own words and actions without interference. Your lack of response means he cannot distract himself by blaming you, by arguing, by dismissing what has happened. He is left with himself, and that is often the hardest confrontation. People can fight with others, but it is much harder to fight with their own thoughts. And your silence brings him to that place. Every unspoken word becomes a question. Every moment of quiet becomes a reminder that something has shifted. In those moments, he might begin to replay conversations in his mind. He might recall things he said that he thought had no effect. He might realize the times he failed to appreciate you, or the moments he let his ego lead. Silence makes people see what words often hide. Because when there is no reaction, no emotional outburst, the truth stands alone, untouched. That truth is often more painful than anything you could have said, because it cannot be softened by excuses. And the effect is not immediate. The longer you stay quiet, the heavier it becomes. Each day without words adds weight. Each unanswered message or unspoken thought creates a deeper impression. Silence is powerful because it is patient. It does not rush to prove a point. It simply waits, and in that waiting, the other person feels the pressure of time passing without your voice. This is why absence of reaction can become unforgettable. It leaves a mark because it shows control, strength, and self-respect. This kind of silence is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the understanding that not every action deserves an answer, that not every conflict needs your energy. It shows that you are capable of walking away without losing yourself. It proves that your peace is more important than winning an argument. That alone is enough to make anyone reflect. And for him, it is even more powerful because it means he no longer has the same access to you. That realization is painful because it shows that something has been lost, and it was lost without a single sound. So remember this: absence of reaction is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is your way of saying, without speaking, that you are no longer willing to give your energy to things that do not deserve it. And when he feels that silence, when he sees that the space you created cannot be filled with words, it will stay with him long after the moment has passed. There is a quiet strength in choosing to stay composed, a kind of power that many people overlook because they expect emotion to be loud and visible. When you decide to remain silent, it is not a sign of defeat or fear, but a declaration that your inner world is more important than any argument. Your silence signals to him something he does not expect, that your self-respect is intact, and your emotions are under your control. It shows that your feelings are not something to be played with, not something to be taken for granted. When you do not react, when you choose stillness instead of noise, it unsettles him because it is different from what he knows. He expects explanation. He expects resistance. He expects a reaction that gives him insight into your thoughts. But when none of that comes, he is left to confront the reality that your peace matters more than his comfort. Respecting yourself enough to remain silent when provoked is a kind of discipline. It shows you have learned that not every action deserves your attention, and not every word requires a reply. It is not about avoiding conflict. It is about understanding your worth. Silence becomes your shield, not because you are hiding, but because you know your emotions deserve protection. When you choose not to speak, it is a quiet way of saying that you will not lower yourself to a level where your feelings can be dismissed or underestimated. And he will feel that. He will sense that he no longer has the same access to your emotions as before, and that realization can shake him more than any heated exchange could. The power in this control lies in its unpredictability. Silence changes the balance. When words are gone, he cannot read you, cannot predict what you are thinking, cannot manipulate your emotions with his responses. Your composure becomes a boundary. It says that you will not allow yourself to be pulled into unnecessary drama. It says that you value your dignity above winning an argument. This boundary is powerful because it is unspoken. It does not need explanation, yet it speaks volumes about who you are and what you stand for. When someone realizes they no longer have control over your emotions, it affects them deeply. Silence forces them to see that they are not as important in your world as they may have believed. It is a quiet shift, but one that changes everything. Your calmness, your ability to remain still and unmoved, becomes a message that cannot be ignored. It tells him that your emotions are sacred and that they will not be wasted on anyone who cannot handle them with care. This is why silence and emotional control are so powerful together. They create a sense of strength that is felt, not seen. They demand respect without ever asking for it. He begins to understand that if he wants access to your words and emotions again, he must approach differently, with more care, with more awareness. And that lesson is not taught through shouting or explaining. It is taught through stillness. Silence in the face of conflict or disappointment does not make you cold. It makes you wise. It makes you aware that peace is worth more than proving a point. It shows that your focus is not on winning, but on protecting what matters most, yourself. And that is what truly unsettles him. Because when he realizes that he can no longer trigger you, when he sees that your energy is reserved only for what is worthy, he begins to feel the loss of something he may have taken for granted. So let your silence be your statement, and your emotional control be your strength. When you choose to stay calm and collected, you are not withdrawing, you are rising above. And when he feels that quiet distance, when he sees that your emotions are not easily given, it will hurt more than he imagined, because your silence has shown him your true power. There is a rare kind of power in calmness, especially when it appears where chaos was expected. When someone anticipates a reaction, when they expect you to raise your voice, to explain, to defend, or even to break, and instead they find you still, quiet and unshaken, it does something to them. That stillness unsettles him, because it reveals a strength that cannot be manipulated. It says more than words ever could. It shows that you are in control of yourself, and that nothing he says or does can pull you away from your center. That kind of calm mind is not easy to achieve, and that is exactly why it is so impactful. When he expects noise and gets quietness, the silence speaks louder than anger. It forces him to stop and wonder what is happening. He was prepared for arguments, for explanations, maybe even for tears. He was ready for something to hold on to, some clue about your thoughts. But when you give him nothing, when your calmness becomes the only response, his mind begins to work overtime. People are deeply uncomfortable with unpredictability, and silence is the most unpredictable response of all. He cannot control it, he cannot answer it, and he cannot ignore it. The more he tries to read you, the less he understands, and that creates a tension he cannot escape. This quietness, this refusal to be drawn into conflict, is not weakness. It is discipline. It shows that you have mastered something few ever do: the ability to separate yourself from unnecessary noise. It shows that your peace is your priority, and that you do not hand it over easily. That is why it affects him so deeply. Your calmness is not passive. It is active and intentional. It tells him that you have chosen stillness because you know your value. It says that you refuse to fight battles that do not deserve your energy. And in that moment, the power shifts. What many do not realize is that calmness forces others to face themselves. Without your voice to respond or react, his thoughts become louder. He is left with his own questions, his own guilt, his own insecurities. And the more you remain steady, the more those feelings grow. Silence turns the spotlight inward. It makes him feel the weight of his own actions, because there is nothing from you to soften it or distract him from it. That is why your calmness unsettles him. It strips away the excuses and leaves him alone with the truth. Another reason this quiet strength has such an impact is because it is rare. Most people rush to defend themselves. They rush to explain, to prove, to justify. When you do none of that, when you simply let your silence fill the space, it sends a message: you are not afraid to walk away. You are not desperate to be understood, and you are not controlled by his opinion. That is hard for anyone to face. It creates a shift in perspective, a realization that your presence was something he could not replace or take lightly. A calm mind also shows that you have boundaries. It shows that you are not willing to lower yourself to chaos just to make a point. This is a quiet but firm declaration that your peace matters more than his ego. And that truth, though unspoken, is felt. It is felt in the way he notices your stillness, in the way he feels the gap created by your lack of reaction, in the way he senses that something precious has been withdrawn. It leaves him wondering if he lost something that he cannot get back. So remember this: when you remain calm and quiet, when you do not bend or break, you are showing a strength that needs no explanation. It is a strength that will stay with him long after the moment has passed, because your calmness is not forgettable. It unsettles him because it is rare, it is powerful, and it is untouchable. There are few things more powerful than an unspoken boundary. When you decide to remain quiet, when you refuse to engage and instead choose silence, it sends a message louder than any raised voice could. Silence becomes a wall, an invisible line that says, this is where I end and where you no longer have access. It is not anger, it is not punishment, it is clarity. It tells him without a single word that your time, your energy, and your emotions are not free. They are valuable, and they will not be wasted. This is why silence can hurt so deeply. It shows that you have decided to protect yourself, and that decision is firm. When you speak, when you explain, when you argue, you are still opening a door, still giving access to your thoughts. But when you close that door and say nothing, you take back control. He cannot step into your space anymore. He cannot hear what you are thinking, cannot predict your next move, cannot feel the comfort of your attention. Your silence reminds him that there are limits, and that not everyone stays to make him comfortable. This absence is not just quiet. It is a boundary he cannot cross. Boundaries are powerful because they are often misunderstood. Many believe silence means weakness or surrender, but in truth, it is strength. It takes courage to say nothing when everything inside you wants to speak. It takes maturity to understand that not every situation deserves your words. And when you choose silence, you are saying something profound. You are not afraid to walk away, and you do not need to be heard to stand firm. This unsettles him because it means the usual ways of reaching you no longer work. He feels the shift because silence removes all control. Words can be argued with, emotions can be manipulated, but silence cannot be moved. It cannot be rushed, and it cannot be ignored. The longer you stay quiet, the heavier it becomes, until it is undeniable. That weight forces him to think about what happened, to analyze his actions, to wonder why you are no longer responding. It makes him reflect in ways your words never could, because silence does not give him answers. It only gives him space to see the truth. And the truth is this: your silence is not emptiness, it is self-respect. It says you will not explain yourself to someone who did not listen the first time. It says your peace is worth more than his comfort. It says that your value is not in your ability to argue, but in your ability to know when to walk away. Every moment of quiet is a reminder that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. As time goes on, that boundary becomes clearer. He begins to realize what was lost, the connection that once existed, the ease with which your voice used to come. He begins to feel the absence as something sharp, because it was not taken, it was given, and then withdrawn. That realization is painful, because it means you chose yourself, and he is no longer at the center of your focus. Silence becomes a quiet declaration of independence, a statement that you will not be controlled or diminished. So let your silence stand firm. Let it protect your heart, your mind, and your energy. Let it remind him that access to you is earned and not owed. Because when he feels that wall, when he senses that unshakable boundary, he will know something powerful. That you are no longer where he left you. And your silence has already said everything that needed to be said. There is something unforgettable about the quiet strength you carry when you choose not to speak. Every pause, every moment of calm, every unspoken word becomes a reminder that your energy is not for anyone to misuse. Your silence is not weakness, it is your highest form of wisdom. It unsettles him because it shows that you do not need to raise your voice to be heard, and you do not need to fight to prove your worth. It is your quietness that becomes the loudest message, the strongest boundary, and the clearest reflection of self-respect. So hold on to that strength. Let your silence protect your peace. Let it remind others that your attention is a gift. And let it keep you grounded when the world expects chaos. The more you honor your stillness, the more you teach others how to value you. And when he finally realizes what your quietness means, it will not just hurt. It will open his eyes to who you truly are. I wish you the strength to stay calm, the wisdom to choose silence when needed, and the confidence to know your value at all times. Good luck on your journey of growth and self-respect, and thank you for allowing me to share these words with you today.